Costello emerged as a bootlegging innovator. He was the first to use seaplanes to protect his liquor shipments from hijackers. And he was a shrewd organizer.
In the dark underbelly of organized crime, one name stands out as a legend: Frank Costello. Known as the Prime Minister of the Underworld, Costello's life was shrouded in mystery and intrigue. This gripping account delves deep into the untold story of Frank Costello, the mobster who was at the head of the United States of America Unions, exploring the events and circumstances that shaped him into the enigmatic figure he would become. Early life. In the bustling neighborhood of East Harlem, amidst the chaos and poverty, young Francesco Castiglia, later known as Frank Costello, took his first steps into a world that would shape his destiny. Born on January 26, 1891 to Italian immigrant parents, Costello's childhood was far from idyllic. Frank was the youngest of 4 children, growing up in a cramped tenement apartment. His father, Luigi Castiglia, worked long hours as a laborer, struggling to provide for his family. Frank's mother, Teresa, was a strong-willed woman who instilled in her children the importance of hard work and determination. Frank was exposed to the harsh realities of life in East Harlem from an early age. The neighborhood was a melting pot of different cultures, but it was also plagued by poverty, crime, and violence. Gangs roamed the streets, and young boys like Frank had to navigate the treacherous alleys. Despite the challenges, Frank was a bright and resourceful child. He excelled in school, displaying a sharp intellect and a knack for business. However, the allure of the streets proved too strong to resist. Frank was drawn to the gangsters and hustlers who seemed to hold power and respect in the neighborhood. Frank became more involved in the criminal underworld as he entered his teenage years. He ran errands for local mobsters, learning the tricks of the trade and gaining a reputation for his street smarts. During this time, he earned the nickname the Prime Minister of the Underworld, a title that would follow him throughout his life. But it wasn't all smooth sailing for young Frank. The streets of East Harlem were unforgiving, and he faced numerous challenges and setbacks. In fact, between 1908 and 1918, Costello's name would appear on police records 3 times, each arrest for assault and robbery. But during these formative years, Costello's fate would take a turn. Additionally, rival gangs posed a constant threat, and Frank had to rely on his wit and cunning to survive. He witnessed violence and bloodshed, experiences that would shape his future as a mobster. Despite the hardships, Frank's family remained a constant source of support. His parents, although disapproving of his choices, loved him unconditionally. They saw their son's potential and hoped he would find a different path in life. Little did they know that Frank was destined for a life of crime and notoriety. As Frank Costello's childhood in East Harlem ended, the stage was set for his ascent into the criminal underworld. The challenges he faced and the lessons he learned would serve as the foundation for his rise to power. Rise in Mafia. Frank Costello's rise in the Mafia is a captivating tale of ambition, cunning, and survival. From his early involvement in street gangs to his strategic alliances with influential mobsters like Lucky Luciano, Costello climbed the ranks of the American Mafia with determination and cunning. His aversion to violence and ability to navigate the criminal underworld through his intellect and connections set Costello apart from other mob bosses. Despite facing multiple arrests, a Senate hearing, and an assassination attempt, Costello emerged as one of the wealthiest and most respected figures in the New York Mafia. In 1918, Costello made a pivotal decision that would shape his future. He officially changed his name to Frank Costello and married his childhood sweetheart, Loretta Gigerman, the sister of his close friend. However, his newfound stability was short-lived, as he served 10 months in jail the same year for armed robbery. It was during his time behind bars that Costello made a life-altering vow to abandon violence and instead use his intellect as his money-making weapon. Upon his release, Costello was drawn into organized crime, working for the infamous Morello gang in Harlem, which later divided into the Genovese and Lucchese families. Led by the Morello brothers, this gang was involved in various criminal activities, including extortion, illegal gambling, and bootlegging. It was here that Costello's talents and ambitions began to shine. While working for the Morello gang, Costello crossed paths with Charles Lucky Luciano, the leader of the Lower East Side gang. The two men quickly formed a strong bond and realized the potential of merging their respective business ventures. This partnership would prove to be a pivotal moment in Costello's rise in the Mafia. Through his association with Luciano, Costello became acquainted with other influential gang leaders, including Vito Genovese, Tommy Lucchese, Meyer Lansky, and Benjamin Bugsy Siegel. Coinciding with the era of Prohibition, their collaboration led to a highly profitable bootlegging operation. Backed by Arnold Rothstein, a renowned gambler and fixer, the Italian gang allied with the Irish mob, creating a robust criminal network known as the Combine. The Combine's bootlegging operation was a massive success, smuggling thousands of bottles of liquor into the streets every week. Their influence grew, and several U.S. Coast Guardsmen were on their payroll to ensure a smooth operation. Costello's role within the Combine solidified his position as a rising star in the criminal underworld. However, as the number of mobsters climbed, the risks increased. In 1926, Costello and his associate Bill Dwyer were arrested for bribing a U.S. Coast Guardsman. While Costello escaped conviction due to a deadlocked jury, Dwyer was not as fortunate. This event marked a turning point for Costello as he took over the Combine, much to the dismay of Dwyer's loyal followers. The power struggle within the criminal underworld led to the Manhattan Beer Wars, a violent conflict between those loyal to Dwyer and those aligned with Costello. Despite the chaos, Costello continued to work closely with Lucky Luciano, expanding their criminal ventures to include floating casinos, punch boards, slot machines, and bookmaking. Costello's ability to navigate the criminal underworld was not limited to his criminal activities. He also cultivated relationships with politicians, judges, and law enforcement officials, bridging the gap between the criminal underworld and the world of politics. This strategic move earned him the nickname Prime Minister of the Underworld and further solidified his influence within the Mafia. Following the turbulent years of the Manhattan Beer Wars that saw the arrest of his associate Dwyer, a new era was dawning in the American Mafia. Frank Costello and his close associate Lucky Luciano played a crucial role in forming the American National Crime Syndicate. This syndicate aimed to unite various criminal organizations under a unified structure, ensuring cooperation and control over illicit activities. 1929, Costello, Luciano, and several other influential mobsters organized a historic meeting called the Big Seven Group. This gathering, held in Atlantic City, New Jersey, marked a turning point in the history of organized crime. The attendees included Costello, Luciano, Vito Genovese, Meyer Lansky, and Enoch Nucky Johnson. The purpose of the meeting was to establish an American National Crime Syndicate, a centralized organization that would oversee and regulate criminal activities across the country. This syndicate aimed to maintain order, resolve disputes, and ensure a steady flow of profits for all involved. Costello's strategic mindset and ability to build alliances played a crucial role in the success of this endeavor. With the formation of the American National Crime Syndicate, Costello's influence and power expanded astronomically. He became a trusted advisor and consigliere to Lucky Luciano, who emerged as the de facto leader of the syndicate. Costello's role extended beyond criminal activities, as he became a key figure in mediating disputes and maintaining harmony within the Mafia. Moreover, the syndicate's reach extended far beyond New York City, with operations spanning across the United States. Costello's business acumen and connections allowed him to establish lucrative criminal ventures in various locations, including Florida and Cuba. His involvement in illegal gambling, bootlegging, and other illicit activities further cemented his position as one of the most profitable and influential mob bosses of his time. However, the formation of the American National Crime Syndicate came with challenges. Traditionalist mobsters such as Salvatore Maranzano and Joe Masseria opposed the syndicate's centralized structure and sought to maintain the old-world mafia system. This disagreement led to the infamous Castellamarese War, a violent conflict that threatened to tear the very fabric of the mafia. Costello, Luciano, and their allies, known as the Young Turks, sought to end the war and establish their vision for the future of organized crime. They orchestrated a plan to eliminate Joe Masseria, a powerful mob boss who stood in their way. Masseria's death in a Coney Island restaurant marked a turning point in the war and solidified the dominance and authority of Costello and his associates. With the war behind them, Costello and Luciano emerged as the undisputed leaders of the American National Crime Syndicate. Costello's reputation as a skilled negotiator and mediator earned him the nickname Prime Minister of the Underworld. He became the go-to person for resolving conflicts and maintaining the delicate balance of power within the mafia. As the 1930s unfolded, Costello's power and influence continued to grow. He expanded his criminal enterprises, including his involvement in the lucrative slot machine and bookmaking operations. Costello's ambition knew no bounds, as he vowed to put slot machines in every New York bar, cafe, drugstore, and gas station. However, Costello's plans faced a significant setback when then-Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia intervened. In a bold move, LaGuardia ordered the confiscation and destruction of thousands of slot machines, famously dumping them into the river. Despite this setback, Costello's entrepreneurial spirit remained undeterred. No, he wasn't going to stop, not even once. Costello seized a new opportunity when Louisiana Governor Huey Long offered him a chance to establish slot machines throughout the state for a share of the profits. Costello accepted the offer, expanding his operations to Louisiana and solidifying his reputation as a mastermind of illicit gambling. While Costello's criminal empire empire flourished, his associate Lucky Luciano faced legal troubles. In 1936, Luciano was convicted of running a prostitution ring and sentenced to a lengthy prison term. This turn of events thrust Costello into a position of even greater prominence within the American National Crime Syndicate. With Luciano's absence, Costello assumed leadership, overseeing the syndicate's operations and maintaining its intricate alliances. His business acumen and ability to navigate the complex world of organized crime earned him the respect and admiration of his peers. However, Costello's rise to power was challenging. Rival mobsters and ambitious upstarts constantly vied for control and sought to undermine his authority. One such rival was Vito Genovese, who had long harbored ambitions of taking over the Luciano family. In 1957, after years of simmering tensions, Genovese made his move. Vincent the Chin Gigante, a trusted associate of Genovese, attempted to assassinate Costello in a brazen attack. Miraculously, Costello survived the assassination attempt, but the incident marked a turning point in his life. Rather than seeking revenge, Costello chose a path of reconciliation. He refused to name his attacker at trial and made peace with Genovese. In a surprising turn of events, Costello turned over control of the Luciano family to Genovese, securing his safety and preserving his criminal enterprises. While Frank steadily rose to ranks in the underworld of mobsters, his influence in the labor unions remained steady and unfettered. Infiltrating the labor unions was pivotal for all his underworld operations. Associating with labor unions shows how much Costello employed his wits. Infiltrating labor unions was a perfect cover for his illegal businesses, something that his mob associates didn't think of. Infiltrating the labor unions. Costello recognized these unions' power and influence and saw an opportunity to exploit their resources for his gain. But how would a mobster with such a grim reputation with the authorities find his way within the unions, you ask? Listen, Costello's infiltration of the labor unions began with a calculated move. He sent his trusted associates to join the unions as regular members, blending in with the workforce and gaining the trust of their fellow union members. These associates were carefully selected for their loyalty and dedication to Costello's cause. Through their hard work and dedication, Costello's associates gradually worked their way up the ranks of the unions. They proved themselves to be valuable assets, earning the respect and trust of their fellow union members. It was through this trust that Costello's influence began to take hold. Once in positions of power within the unions, Costello's associates became his eyes and ears, feeding him valuable information about labor disputes, strikes, and negotiations. This information allowed Costello to manipulate the labor landscape to his advantage, something he was so good at. Costello's manipulation of labor disputes and strikes was a masterclass in strategy. He would orchestrate strikes or negotiate favorable business contracts, ensuring his profits remained high. Moreover, he could effectively control entire industries by controlling the labor force and exerting his influence over employers and employees. But Costello's tactics didn't stop at negotiation. He was not afraid to resort to violence and intimidation to maintain his control over the unions. He employed enforcers and thugs to intimidate union members who opposed his rule, using fear and violence to silence any dissent. Costello's ruthless approach ensured his grip on the labor unions remained unchallenged. Those who dared to oppose him quickly learned the consequences of crossing him. His reputation as a formidable and ruthless figure in the criminal underworld extended to his control over the labor unions. Through his infiltration and manipulation of the labor unions, Costello wielded immense power and influence. He could sway elections, influence legislation, and ensure that laws were passed in his favor. His control over the unions also allowed him to manipulate public opinion, using his influence to shape the narrative and control the flow of information. Costello's infiltration of the labor unions was a testament to his cunning and ambition. He recognized the potential for profit and power within these organizations and seized the opportunity to exploit them for his gain. His strategies for infiltrating and manipulating the labor unions solidified his position as a dominant figure in organized crime and the labor movement. Control and influence. Frank Costello, the notorious mob boss known for his control and influence within the American Mafia, was a man of extraordinary power and cunning. What set him apart from other mob bosses were two remarkable facts. He never carried a gun, and he fearlessly testified at a Senate hearing on organized crime without invoking the protection of the Fifth Amendment. From his humble beginnings as Francesco Castiglia in Italy, Costello clawed his way to the top, becoming one of the wealthiest and most influential gangsters in history. Frank's control and influence took a trajectory when he crossed paths with Charles "Lucky" Luciano, the leader of the Lower East Side gang. Luciano, a rising star in the criminal underworld, recognized Costello's potential, and the two quickly formed a friendship that would change the course of history. And it's these preceding events that further affirmed Costello's control and influence. With their relationship still young and new, Luciano and Costello began merging their respective business ventures, creating a powerful alliance that would lay the foundation for their future success. Through their connections, they formed alliances with other influential gang leaders, including Vito Genovese, Tommy Lucchese, and Jewish gang leaders Meyer Lansky and Benjamin Bugsy Siegel. Coincidentally, the Luciano-Costello-Lansky-Siegel venture came to fruition simultaneously with Prohibition. With the passage of the 18th Amendment, the gang saw an opportunity to capitalize on the illegal trade of alcohol. Backed by king gambler Arnold Rothstein, they embarked on a highly profitable bootlegging venture to solidify their power and influence. The Italian gang, led by Luciano and Costello, soon found themselves in cahoots with the Irish mob, including mobster Bill Dwyer, who had been operating a rum-running operation. Together, they formed what is now known as the Combine, a bootlegging system with a fleet of ships capable of transporting 20,000 crates of liquor at a time. The Combine seemed unstoppable, with several U.S. Coast Guardsmen on their payroll and the ability to smuggle thousands of liquor into the streets weekly. But as their power grew, so did the risks they faced, and it is at these stages that Costello yet again proved who's more influential and holds vast powers. In 1926, Costello and his associate Bill Dwyer were arrested for bribing a U.S. Coast Guardsman. While Costello managed to escape conviction, Dwyer faced imprisonment. This led to a gang war between those loyal to Dwyer and those who believed he was in prison because of Costello. The Manhattan Beer Wars erupted, costing Costello control of the Combine. However, the setback didn't deter Costello. He continued to work closely with Lucky Luciano on their underworld ventures, including floating casinos, punch boards, slot machines, and bookmaking. Undoubtedly, Lucky Luciano was central in Frank Costello's journey to building his empire and exercising dominance. He learned from the ropes, but Costello's ambitions extended beyond cavorting with criminals. He saw the value in building connections with politicians, judges, and police officers, bridging the gap between the criminal underworld and the world of politics. This was no small feat. No criminal dared to go to such an extent. It was a thin line, and only Costello proved it was navigable. Through his cunning and strategic alliances, Costello quickly climbed the ILA, International Longshoremen Association ranks, eventually becoming a key figure in the union's leadership. His control over the labor unions gave him immense power and influence, allowing him to manipulate the city's economic and political landscape. However, Costello's involvement in the labor unions was wider than exerting control over the workforce. He also used his influence to secure lucrative business contracts like nightclubs and liquor distributorships. It wasn't just his control over the labor unions that propelled Costello to the pinnacle of power. He also forged alliances with influential political figures, particularly within the Democratic Party and Tammany Hall, the notorious political machine that dominated New York City politics. Costello's connections with Tammany Hall allowed him to influence political appointments, secure favorable legislation, and ensure the loyalty of key politicians who owed their positions to him. Costello's ability to navigate both worlds earned him a reputation as the Prime Minister of the Underworld. He became the man who smoothed over disagreements and greased the wheels for anyone who needed his assistance. His influence extended far beyond the criminal underworld, reaching into the corridors of power. He had his roots in every office you possibly could imagine, and now, with his control and influence reaching such heights, he decided to do something strange and had never been in existence. In 1929, Costello, Luciano, and Chicago gangster Johnny Torrio organized a meeting of all the American crime bosses, known as the Big Seven Group. This meeting marked the first step in organizing an American national crime syndicate. It was a way to keep tabs on all criminal activity and maintain some semblance of order in the underground community. If you're a mob leader facing fierce competition from rival gangs, forming a union and keeping a watch on all operations is the wisest decision you can ever take. Yes, that's exactly what Costello did. The meeting, attended by Costello, Luciano, Torrio, Jersey's Enoch "Nucky" Johnson, and Meyer Lansky, changed the course of the American Mafia forever. It laid the foundation for a new era of organized crime, one that would see powerful families rise and establish a criminal empire that spanned the nation. At this point, Costello was holding the apex position, which translated to no one undermining his final words. Additionally, he could mint cash from his illegal underworld activities in such a position, and arguably, with money comes power. Costello clinically used methods and patterns that would have given results less than satisfactory to other mob leaders. Inch by inch, he acclaimed power, control, and influence. Throughout his career, Costello never carried a gun, yet his influence extended far beyond violence. He navigated the treacherous waters of politics, forging connections with politicians politicians, judges, and police officers. His role in the Luciano Castello-Lansky-Siegel venture, backed by king gambler Arnold Rothstein, solidified his power and influence in the bootlegging industry during Prohibition. However, he also faced a fair share of stumblings in his wild and calculated quest for power. Some almost claimed his career as the Prime Minister of the Underworld. For instance, his high-profile testimony at the Kefauver hearings and subsequent legal battles marked a turning point in his life. But what could be these challenges? Controversies and scandals. Frank Costello, the notorious crime boss and king of the slot machines, was not only a figure of immense power and influence in the labor unions and political landscape of New York City, but he also held the title of a powerful political czar and the puppet master of the city's political scene. However, beneath his legitimate business ventures and political connections lay a web of shocking controversies and scandals that rocked the city and exposed the dark underbelly of his empire. As Frank Costello's influence within the American Mafia continued to grow, he found himself at the center of one of the most controversial events in organized crime history, the Kefauver hearings. Between 1950 and 1951, the United States Senate investigated organized crime led by Senator Estes Kefauver of Tennessee. This investigation aimed to expose the inner workings of the mafia and shed light on its criminal activities. Costello, known for his strategic thinking and ability to navigate complex situations, made a fateful decision. Unlike many of his fellow mobsters, he agreed to testify at the hearings without invoking the Fifth Amendment, which would have protected him from self-incrimination. Costello believed that presenting himself as a legitimate businessman with nothing to hide could sway the court and maintain his image as a respected figure. The hearings, televised for the public to witness, captivated the nation. Costello's appearance was shrouded in secrecy, with the camera operators focusing solely on his hands to conceal his identity. Throughout the proceedings, Costello carefully chose his answers, aware of the potential consequences of his words. "What have you done for your country, Mr. Costello?" "Paid my tax." His remark elicited laughter from the audience, but it did little to alleviate the mounting pressure on him. Shortly after this exchange, Costello left the hearing, leaving behind a legacy that would forever be associated with his testimony. The fallout from the Kefauver hearings profoundly impacted Costello's life. In an attempt to eliminate a gangster who had revealed embarrassing information during the hearings, Costello ordered his murder. This act led to charges of murder and contempt of the Senate being brought against him, resulting in multiple prison sentences and legal battles. After the hearing, he gained the federal government's attention, something you wouldn't wish for regardless of your power. He was now under ruthless, microscopic scrutiny of the federal government, and the IRS raged down on him like fire. And by so, he found himself in yet another scandal: tax evasion. In 1954, Costello faced tax evasion charges, resulting in a 5-year prison sentence. Despite this, he was released in 1957, marking the end of his time behind bars. By now, it was a lesson learned after strenuous and lengthy legal battles. However, Costello still left a lasting impact and legacy despite all these controversies and scandals. Legacy and impact. Frank Costello's life was a testament to the power and influence one individual can wield within the criminal underworld. From his early involvement in street gangs to his rise as one of the most successful mob bosses in history, Costello's intelligence, strategic thinking, and ability to form alliances set him apart. I will discuss every achievement he made to get the details of how he impacted the underworld. First, his rise to power. Costello rose through the ranks of the Italian-American Mafia, particularly in New York City, during the early 20th century. Before becoming a key figure in the Genovese crime family, he was associated with the Morello crime family. Secondly, his political influence. Costello was known for his ability to navigate the worlds of crime and politics. He cultivated relationships with politicians and law enforcement, allowing him to operate relatively undisturbed for many years. His influence extended to city politics, labor unions, and beyond. Thirdly, the formation of the Commission. Costello played a crucial role in the formation and operation of the National Crime Syndicate, also known as the Mafia Commission, earning him the moniker Prime Minister of the Underworld. This organization brought together top mob leaders from across the country to resolve disputes and coordinate criminal activities on a national scale. Lastly, his lucrative rackets. Under Costello's leadership, the Genovese crime family expanded its operations into various lucrative rackets, including gambling, labor racketeering, and extortion. Costello himself was involved in illegal gambling operations, which were a major source of income for the mafia. With all these turns of events, we can all agree that his legacy within the American Mafia and the labor movement is undeniable. More specifically, Costello's role in forming the American National Crime Syndicate and his impact on organized crime and labor relations cannot be overlooked. Additionally, his fateful testimony at the Kefauver hearings exposed the inner workings of the Mafia and brought the issue of organized crime to the forefront of public consciousness. In a nutshell, Frank Costello's legacy in the world of organized crime is significant. He helped shape the structure and operations of the Mafia during a crucial period of its history. His ability to navigate the worlds of crime and politics demonstrated the influence and power wielded by top mob bosses. Costello's tenure as a mob leader left a lasting impact on organized crime in America, influencing subsequent generations of mobsters and shaping the trajectory of criminal enterprises in the country. Despite multiple arrests, a Senate hearing, and an assassination attempt, Costello died a free man at the age of 82. His story continues to captivate and inspire, leaving a lasting impact on organized crime. Overall, Frank Costello's legacy serves as a reminder of the complexities and allure of the criminal underworld and the lasting impact one individual can have on an entire industry. His story will forever be intertwined with the history of the American Mafia, leaving a legacy that continues to fascinate and intrigue. If you enjoyed watching this video, check out our other awesome videos on the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.